Okay, so we have a trade to talk about tonight. It's been reported that the Mets will be sending starting pitcher Steven Matz to the Toronto Blue Jays in exchange for 3 prospects. You know, we've heard all offseason how the Mets or the Blue Jays or even both teams were in on a trade or a free agent signing, so it was only a matter of time before they finally came together on a transaction. So Steven Matz is going to the Blue Jays, and in return, the Mets will be receiving right-handed pitchers John Winkowski, Sean Reed-Foley, and Yennsy Diaz. So let's jump right into this trade and break down what it means for both teams. Over the last week, the Blue Jays have burst onto the scene of the 2021 offseason. In the last 7 days, the Blue Jays have signed Tyler Chatwood, Kirby Yates, George Springer, and just yesterday, Marcus Semien. And even after all of those moves, the Blue Jays still were rumored to be interested in improving their starting rotation. Entering today, the Blue Jays rotation featured Hyun-Jin Ryu, Tanner Roark, Nate Pearson, Tyler Chatwood, Trent Thornton, and Robbie Ray. So while at the solid group of 6 starting pitchers, the Blue Jays wanted to add a little more to it. Matz debuted in 2015 and has spent his entire career with the New York Mets. Matz was a very highly touted left-handed pitching prospect and was even compared to Clayton Kershaw prior to his debut. And over the first 2 years of his career, in 168 innings, Steven Matz had a 3.16 ERA. But unfortunately, since then, everything's been going downhill for Steven Matz. Matz has fought injury after injury throughout his career, which has led to some poor numbers. In 2017, Matz made just 13 starts and had a 6.08 ERA. But in 2018, Matz bounced back, had a full season, pitched in 30 games, and had a 3.97 ERA. In 2019, Matz once again made 30 starts, but had a 4.21 ERA, and even had a few appearances out of the bullpen. But 2020 was the absolute worst season of Steven Matz's career. Matz made 9 appearances, had just 6 starts, and had an ERA over 9.5. Matz has a ton of talent, but it seems like the biggest thing holding him back is his mental ability. In 2019, Matz was awful in the first inning with an ERA over 7, but the rest of the game it was under 3.5. And Mets fans have seen similar trends of Steven Matz throughout his career. There are times that it seems he just can't refocus or get dialed back in after a bad break. And usually when Steven Matz blows up, it's all in one inning. After the Mets acquired Joey Lucchesi from the Padres last week, Steven Matz kind of became expendable. But that being said, there's still a ton of potential in a left-handed pitcher who's only 30 years old. And maybe a change of scenery is exactly what Steven Matz needs right now in his career. So Matz will enter the starting pitching ranks for the Blue Jays and fight for a spot in that rotation. Now let's take a look at the players going back to the Mets in this trade. Winkowski was drafted by the Blue Jays in the 15th round of the 2016 draft. In 2019, over 127 innings between advanced A-ball and single A, Winkowski pitched to a 2.69 ERA. He also had 108 strikeouts to his 43 walks and a 1.20 whip. And entering this offseason, Winkowski was rated as the Blue Jays' 27th overall prospect in their system. The Mets will also be receiving right-handed pitcher Sean Reed-Foley. Last season, in 6 MLB appearances, Sean Reed-Foley had a 1.35 ERA. Sean Reed-Foley is a former second-round draft pick and was actually ranked as high as 9th in the Blue Jays system in 2019. But unfortunately, things have not gone as well for Foley at the MLB level. Since 2018, his ERA is 4.40. And the last player going to the Mets is Yennsy Diaz. In 481 innings over 96 minor league appearances, Yennsy Diaz has a 3.84 ERA. He actually made his MLB debut for the Blue Jays in 2019, but pitched just 2/3 of an inning and has an ERA of 27. So the Mets don't get any huge names back, but John Winkowski is an interesting one, having been one of the top 30 prospects in the Blue Jays system. I also like Sean Reed-Foley having a really strong 2020 and being a former top prospect as well. Even more than any of that, this trade is huge for the Mets in many different ways. The trade in itself is a big win. They get 2 prospects plus a pitcher with controllable years left on his contract. And now they've freed up more money to go out and pursue other players this offseason. And with Steven Matz being a free agent next year, the Mets just cleared $5.2 million of luxury tax payroll for this season. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but this tells me the Mets are going after Trevor Bauer. By clearing out Steven Matz, the Mets now have another rotation spot for Bauer and more money to offer him. In fact, shortly after the Mets traded Steven Matz, it was reported by the LA Times that the Angels are out on Trevor Bauer. Now, if you ask me, that doesn't sound like a coincidence. I think the Mets are on the precipice of bringing Trevor Bauer to Queens. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would definitely put it all on the Mets bringing in Trevor Bauer. So, what do you guys think? Who won this trade, the Mets or the Blue Jays? Will Steven Matz make the Blue Jays starting rotation? And if you think Trevor Bauer's coming to the Mets, then comment Bauer to the Mets on this video. If you haven't watched my most recent video about the universal DH and expanded playoffs being out for 2021, be sure to watch that next.